Okay, welcome everyone. Can you hear me?
Very clearly.
Thank you. So you are attending this session on IHE Sharazone, and you may wonder what is IHE Sharazone. That's probably one of the reasons why you are here. And we will, with Piet, Hein, and Thorsten, provide you this understanding of this new way to do testing. So I will be presenting first. My name is Charles Parisot. I'm the chair of IHE Services, which is the operational arm of IHE-Europe that is providing support, some form of consulting and guidance for projects that are deploying interoperability. So we are very much interoperability focused, a specialist, of course, in the use and the testing of IHE profile for projects that are deploying IHE. What we want to discuss today is a new way to test objects, documents, images that are being exchanged between products. And what we found is that there was a desire, especially from the imaging community, but also from other communities that are exchanging CDA documents or FIRE bundles in the future or the very near future, in the fact that their ability to test and to cross-test their implementation was pretty good during the Connectathon, but they wanted to be able to perform those tests anytime with different product, different version of products, and so forth. So what we offer with Shareazone initially is a focus on DICOM to actually shape and launch this service. And we think that in the future, we will expand it to other type of objects like CDA and FIRE bundle. We want this to be a complement to the IHE Connectathon, and we want this to be a continuous interoperability testing. So let's assume I am a creator of something that needs to be tested. I have a test item, a couple of or a series of or a study of DICOM objects that have been acquired in a very specific way. And I would like to have another partner perform a certain test on those test items. We call this a test suite. And the idea here is to share this with a consumer of a shared test input that downloads it, execute the testing, and as it executes the testing according to the test suites, it produces a test report. And this test report, it can then upload back to the creator. Having done this, we now have closed the loop. We have a creator that had something to test, and he has had that test performed by a remote consumer, and we have a consumer of those test objects that has now is sure that he can deal with those test objects, at least for what is being tested correctly. So we have created the confirmation or identified issue in interoperability between this creator product and this consumer product. We think that we need a dialogue between both of those entities that are creating a product, and to do this, we essentially put in place a contract and a non-disclosure agreement that allows in full legality and no risk of antitrust to have those two vendors participate in that testing. In order to facilitate the testing, a test platform has been created, and we are actually reusing Gazelle, where those test participants are registered and the test inputs are shared through a repository that allows the asynchronous way to perform the entire test workflow. So having put in place this infrastructure, we allow for all consumers that potentially can consume such shared test input to pick and choose the one they want to test with. and those consumers can engage in a test session. Likewise, the creator participants uh, know that they will get candid feedback from the consumers. And we feel that's a process where they are encouraged to create quality test input and make sure that we have a full open process where many implementers can participate with both released and not yet released products or open source, that the policies are clear with the contract and the NDA, and there is a minimum fee to be paid for. Many ask us, what's the difference between Connectathon and Shareazone? This table is highlighting the major differences. You see that with the Connectathon, we basically tell a vendor, hey, you've been able to implement and test on your system an IHE profile. It's an capability testing in a sense. With the Shareazone, we now move to specific product of a specific version, and we know, and because we trust the creators and the consumers to share which product, which version do they use. Therefore, that X is very important here, which is not the case in the Connectathon. You don't have to share the product version that you're testing with at the Connectathon. Many do, but it is not compulsory. We also have a service which is asynchronous. You can use it anytime. Uh, and it's the important aspects is that you can test some very specific features or new features that have led to the creation of those shared objects or the consumption of those shared objects. Today, the creator participant and creator consumer participants can operate. This environment is managed and operated by IHE Services. And we have had 10 companies when we made a call early January this year who volunteers to be founders of the Shareazone. You see the name of those 10 companies displayed here. And we have 8 out of the 10 that have returned a signed contract and that are now actively engaged. And you will hear from some of those with Piet, Hein, and Thorsten in the Shareazone. Those founders have expressed interest, and we thank them for their commitment to actually validate this environment in an effective way. So that's the step we're in right now between June and September 10. We are evaluating the tooling, and we are operating in a live context. We've limited to founder members in order to be focused on a few participants, the most interested one, at least the one that expressed interest, but they are performing useful testing. And we want this feedback in order to do a final adjustment before public opening. So expect sometime in September to have that service fully open. Now let's hear from Piet Hein first from MedicalPHIT. Why did your company choose to become a founder of IHE Sharazone?
Yes, thank you very much, Charles. Yeah, we are a company based in the Netherlands, and we already use IHE services as the Gazelle tool for implementing in our projects. One of those projects is started in this COVID-19 pandemic, and we started to provide a program that all images would be exchanged between hospitals, and we had to implement that in 8 months' time, and that's what you call it DVD exit, and it was a program from an assignment from a national, I would say, exchange organization based by hospitals and also by insurance companies, and we had to assure that all radiology images and reports could be exchanged between 76 hospitals. For that, we need some testing and also some agreement, and also, I would say, online continuous opportunity to test, and that a vendor from a hospital and also another vendor from another hospital could see and could comply and also could validate what kind of DICOM images they could send in and what they could expect from the national service. It has helped us a lot in explaining to the different vendors. There are in the Netherlands 10 different PACS vendors active, and also those implementation in an academic center in Amsterdam or an academic center in Utrecht or a hospital in the south of Holland are different implemented. And so we needed one, I would say, reference implementation, and that they could see how the implementation would work and what kind of requirements are obliged to start with that exchange. So as a consumer, we are now participating in this, and we hope that it will help to get all those vendors also on the same page, because you need some freedom in the frame. I would explain it, because you have a lot of different detailed implementation possibilities, and that's not about a vendor is doing it wrong. No, the assignment from the hospital can be done at a different way, so it's implemented on another way, that you use other metadata, or you use another way of exporting the radiology report. All those implementation differences gives a lot of troubles in implementing such a national program. So we hope to provide with our experience from this kind of programs, and we are doing also national screening programs about breast cancer, to provide the good testing sets, and also to provide our experiences in when it's not clear, and what give you a lot of difficulties in actually implementing. So it's not always not a technical issue, it's all about governance and organizational issue.
So, Piet, could you basically in 2 words tell us why you are connecting to Shareazone?
Yeah, why? To get also more experience in how it is organized in other European countries, and not to do it at our own Dutch way, I would say, so that we also comply to the European consensus. That's the main reason.
So, yeah, no. In a nutshell, I would simply say you've used many words, but you are testing your test tools.
Yeah, we're testing our test tools, and we are because we are also involved in an Horizon project. That's big picture. That's setting up a digital pathology repository. That's what 51 hospitals and 51 research companies and pharma companies. Yeah, also we have there also a need to see if our involvement in validating those digital pathology images and reports, if we do it on the right way. And so this.
Hey, thank you.
It's to learn and to contribute. Yes.
Thank you, Thorsten, Conrad from VISUS.
Yes, so that's live. So we have registered our JIVX packs and of course VNA, and it's a great honor to start as a founder member in the Shareazone. And of course, what we expect from the Shareazone is to find bugs in our own product. That's the main reason. So and to enhance the display rendering, and also the reading performance, the reading capabilities from JIVX for the evidence documents that maybe a creator is sharing with us. And we would like to give the smaller companies a platform that they can test their own stuff with a bigger player like us. Yeah. So that's the main reason from VISUS, and so yeah, that's the main reason.
Okay, no, thank you very much. You know, so we see that with Piet and Thorsten and their companies, we see that we have different perspective, and you know, I'm sure that we would have you know another participant that is involved, for example, more on building acquisition modality, that we would have a slightly different perspective, and that's what we are doing and ensuring in making this testing work. So let's give you a little bit more details, couple slides, and then we'll move to the question answer. In order to participate to Shareazone, there is an annual participation fee that essentially covers the putting the infrastructure online and the support that is provided in the form of an administrator that is managing and arbitrating and overseeing the overall process. And we want that fee to be not limited to a certain product, to a certain number of product, of versions, of how many shared test input you want to create, those packages, if you want, that contain what to test and how to test grouping together. So use it as much as you want, and this is our purpose, is to make it as useful as possible, as broad as possible, as rich as possible, so that all of the product, whether they are more on the creating side, the consuming side, or do both, can find useful testing to do. We have a fee that, however, we base on the company size, because we want to make sure we favor, in a sense, a smaller vendor that have typically less product to test than larger vendor that may have more product, more variety of product that are offering. Therefore, you see the fee schedule here, where there is one axis where you pay whether you're a large vendor, more than 2,500 full-time environment, full-time equivalent employees, all the way down to the smaller vendors. And you see that if you're a small creator or a small consumer, it's below €1,000 to participate a year. You can register either as a participant at the first column, either as a consumer participant, or as both. This is essentially the grid that will allow you to understand, you know, how much being a Shareazone member will cost you in yearly fee, and we expect participants to be there for a long time. So, as I said earlier, but I want to confirm that the service will be open to all after September 10. And we are encouraging today the founder members to start creating for the first set of product, the first set of shared test input. So when you will join on September 10, you will already find a variety of product and a variety of things to test. So expect an opening announcement early September with a very precise date when you will be able to basically engage. We encourage you to prepare joining simply because signing the Shareazone contract may take a little bit of time inside your company. So please start as soon as you want today and submit your signed contract starting July 1st, and we will keep your contract and activate it as soon as the service will be open, so you'll be able to ramp up very, very quickly. So in order to request the contract, contact the secretariat at IHE-Europe.net, and so that you can prepare your engagement and be ready as soon as September comes to perform testing on the Shareazone. So welcome. We want this to be a very effective service. We appreciate very much the extra effort that the founder companies are engaging in piloting, in a sense, this product. We are very confident and we want to encourage a large number of participants so that it is an efficient and flexible service for all. You've heard IHE-Europe is the first sponsor of the IHE Sharazone, and IHE Services is actually operating the service and providing the necessary support. All of this has been developed in the IHE Services activity, and we've engaged a number of vendors that have expressed interest in helping shape and draft the non-disclosure agreement. You cannot I can only welcome and thank them for their engagement and the many conferences where we're able to shape and give you now what is an operational service in a pilot mode. So please feel welcome, and we want now to take your question and answer of any kind. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions?
There is one in the chat by Evert Summers. Actually, I just gave everyone the right to unmute themselves. So Evert, maybe you want to just ask your question out loud?
Well, my question is, for example, in XDS, we found that combining vendors, we had to update XDS metadata, and we have to document that. One of the things IHE does very well is documenting. Can this be used to document better than we did before?
So the answer to this, and I'm going back in the slide, is yes, there is a documenting capability that Shareazone offers. And this documenting capability is the fact that when you submit something to test, you will get back a test report. In the current stage, the test report is a documentation by the consumer of all the tests that have been done, the one that succeeded, the one that failed, and that may give you back feedback on potential errors that may be contained in this object or set of objects that you submitted for testing. So that is a documentation and something that it's not throwing some objects and expecting somebody to do some testing. No, 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 no. As a consumer, you must produce a test report according to the test suite that was given by the creator. So in that sense, there is even a more rigorous process than in the Connectathon to connect to document the result of the testing. And if you do that as a creator and get report back from several consumers, I think you will get a lot of valuable information. Likewise, the consumer is able to communicate errors that he has found in the object. Of course, he may have found error in its implementation and corrected them. So that will improve things downstream. Have I answered your question?
Yes, partly, and perhaps Piet Hein, you used it in DVD exit.
Yes.
And you found in DVD exit different implementations of vendors. Did you, at the end of DVD exit, because the program is now finished and working well, is there now a final report how, for example, an 11th vendor, PAX vendor, not working now in the Netherlands, but becoming active in the Netherlands, exactly now knows how to implement?
Now, it's not over yet. We are just starting with implementing it for all, I would say, independent practical professional practices. So I would say independent, more commercial organizations for healthcare. And what we have done for in the Netherlands for the national program, that's for the national exchange, the DVD exit, the 11th vendor can see which kind of metadata and which kind of I would say coding system he has to use. But that's what we have done in the Netherlands. So we hope with that experience that we can also help the IHE Sharazone that it also will be clear on a European scale.
Yeah, that's my next question. If Maastricht is exchanging information with Aachen and with Luik, so with Germany and with Belgium, can you use this as a guide?
Now, then we have to, that's, I would say, it's more, get it more framed in what kind of way the report has to be published, or,
Okay.
and that's,
Yeah, if I may clarify,
Yeah.
the purpose here is not to test operational sites.
I know. Yeah.
The purpose here is to test software products that are going to be deployed in those operational sites. So yes, there is an operational testing. We do that in Projectathon in a variety of ways. Piet has described some of the way that are done in a couple of projects in Holland. Shareazone is a step ahead of that. Let me move to a few other questions because our time is pretty short. The next question is the difference with conformity assessment. So conformity assessment is essentially testing all aspects of a product. It tests against a test bench and a well-defined quality-oriented test process. Every aspect, the content, the interaction, and basically give you a certificate at the end that says all of those test cases that are defined in the conformity assessment scheme of IHE for this profile have been performed successfully. Done. So what you see is in conformity assessment is like kind of an end process, a testing labeling process at the end. It's not something that is intended to improve your quality. So before you get to conformity assessment, we think Shareazone has a role to play, just like Connectathon has a role to play in bettering, learning, collaborating to actually get your interoperability as right as possible. So in a sense, we are one step before the conformity assessment. Next question, is this process ISO 17025 certified? The answer is no, and it is not the purpose to certify products. It is a way for creator of products that create objects and consume objects to be comfortable that they can interpret together with those specific objects for those specific scope of the testing. So it's really more bringing clarity and efficacy in delivering interoperable products, not putting a label and a certification and an objective test plan on an IHE profile. You see here that you can have products that interpret, especially with DICOM objects, where there is no IHE profile for those DICOM objects. There is no IHE profile for what's a correct CT object coming from a multiply CT in order to do 3D reconstruction. That's not in the scope of certification. So all of those are complementing each other. The next question is, what is the difference between the testing result achieved on the Connectathon and achieved on the Shareazone? The Connectathon results are public and they can be consumed by other vendors and other users. The Shareazone result, in other the test reports, are confidential to the creator of those objects and the participants of those objects. So we are at an environment today which is really pre-product being delivered and in bettering content processing by different product. The question is a good question, and that's something we don't have an answer yet, is what is going to be the benefit for the customers, the users of product? We think Shareazone will deliver a lot of value to the users, although it's not going to be in the form of a report, of a certificate. It's simply that when they're going to get product from a vendor that is actively engaged in Shareazone, they're going to see those products interacting and interpreting with other products in terms of DICOM content today, because that's the focus today, in a better way. So Nothing to add in the purchasing process, I would say, except checking if the vendor is an active participant in Shareazone. So those are the only questions. I want to reopen with the floor. You may have additional questions or comments on the answers. I'm trying to stay within the time that is allocated to us. No other comments?
Yeah, here. I have a question. We are working for legislation in the Netherlands, and imaging is one of the cases. In the session, we also have the project leader of the Ministry of Health and of NEN, of the Institute of Standardization. How do you look at the position of IHE services to come to a roadmap, how to prepare such a case for legislation? Should it end in a projectathon?
You're asking a very broad question that goes beyond the scope of this session. I can tell you that there have been some discussion, but they are exploratory at this time, as to could the Shareazone model, like the Connectathon model, is sometimes used inside a specific project with a projectathon. Could the Shareazone be also transposed, and the same model and tooling be reused to do content testing within a project? And the answer to that is possibly. This has not been explored yet. We've learned a lesson in IHE, let's walk before we run. So we want to do Shareazone, make it successful. Once we will have this community and this testing and proven its value for all parties, because we believe that interoperability is a shared value, we will consider, and we are open to all input in saying, you know, can this concept or tooling be transposed in a more project user-centric approach? So this is an open question. I'm glad you asked it, but we have not yet decided on anything, and your contribution will be welcome on this process. I believe we have reached and actually exceeded our time allocated, so I will have to thank you very much. And we have reached the end of this teleconference. If you have further questions, do not hesitate to ask them. You can send me an email at charles.parisot@IHE-Europe.net. Thank you very much for your attention. And thank you, Thorsten and Piet. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.